That is amazing. That is so cool. Hey, thanks for tuning in to Twang and Bang. This is the Ranchero arrow sent to me by FX Airguns USA. And yes, the name does sound like you're trying to imitate an echo, but with the Ranchero pellet pistol so well known in the airgun world, it is a natural name for something that is a Ranchero air pistol with an arrow barrel. Made in Sweden, the Ranchero, like all FX airguns, has a reputation for being very high quality and super accurate. As you will see, the Arrow Edition lives up to that standard while giving you a whole new level of fun. And that's why the FX Ranchero Arrow is what's coming up next on Twang and Bang. The FX Ranchero has been around for over a decade, but it's now available with a barrel that accepts these arrows made especially for FX by Gold Tip. They're standard arrows cut down in length without a knock in the back. They're probably technically bolts because I doubt they actually plane in flight, but that's not really an important distinction. What is an important distinction is that this is the only factory-made airgun pistol that's designed to shoot one of these. And that's exactly as cool as it sounds. You should be able to tell just by looking at it, but the Ranchero arrow is based off a target pistol. It has a synthetic target style one-piece grip and frame with a very beefy palm swell and a thumb shelf. It's got a soft touch surface that makes the grip not only nicer in the hand, but also grippier. It has an insane two-stage trigger that breaks at a mere 14 ounces out of the box, but you can adjust that up to 24 ounces if you want a firmer trigger. You can also adjust the trigger reach, you can adjust the first stage travel, and you can adjust the position of the shoe, though I found the settings as they were out of the box perfectly fine for my use. The top of the receiver has an integral 11mm scope rail, though I installed this Picatinny adapter so I can run my Trijicon dual illuminated RMR red dot. If you wanted to use a magnified optic, make sure you get one with a very long eye relief made specifically for mounting on a pistol. Otherwise, you'll have to either hold the Ranchero unnaturally close to your face or live with a very small field of view through your scope. Red dots are perfect for this, however, because you really aren't going to be shooting this at great distances anyway. The safety is unlike that on many air guns because it does not auto-engage when the action is cocked. You have to do it manually. But that makes shooting sessions so much more enjoyable than if you had to reach all the way up here to move the safety to fire every time you wanted to shoot. Note that this is no less safe than any firearm that I am aware of. Once you start firing, you just keep the barrel pointed down range and your finger off the trigger until you're ready to shoot, and you won't have a need for it. That said, like many air guns and even many firearms, the safety will not engage unless the action is cocked. So you still need to keep your head in the game if you plan to do anything other than keeping the barrel pointed down range and immediately firing at the target. This does have another really cool trick though. You put this on fire, pull the cocking lever all the way back, pull the trigger rearward, and now you can decock the action. To make it safe for travel, getting out of a tree stand or out of a blind or whatever you want to do with a decocked pistol, you don't have to fire this to decock it. That's pretty cool. It is a pre-charged pneumatic, which means that you need a source of high pressure air to keep the under barrel reservoir filled. The standard Ranchero has a power adjuster here, but the Arrow version forgoes that since you need full power to ensure good arrow flight and downrange performance. FX Airguns includes this fill stem, which you got to thread onto the end of your hose from your high pressure tank. That goes right in here, right in this fitting. You could put it in either direction. It just slides right in there. No drama. And then there are O-rings that seal it. And then you just want to crack the valve open slowly. Wow, that fills fast. It's a small cylinder. You just need to make sure you don't slam fill the cylinder. It'll just be hot air anyway, which will then reduce in pressure as it cools if you fill it too fast. Right to 220, turn it off, and then you bleed from your tank like this. And now the fill stem comes right out. Now I'm ready to shoot. The Ranchero arrow is not regulated, which is why I was so impressed with the small range and velocity from the first through the 8th shot. The factory arrows total 320 grains in weight, and velocities like these mean the pistol can be used for more than target shooting. Game of all sizes has been taken with stick bows of equivalent kinetic energy for millennia, though I would prefer using something like one of FX Airgun's arrow rifles for shooting larger game. I'm shooting off a sandbag because even at 25 yards, I need something steady to take aim. I found that a really tight grip is the best way to shoot this. This doesn't have recoil in the sense of a center fire handgun. It's not pushing back into your palm, but it is wiggly when you pull that trigger. And a lot of it might happen after the arrow leaves the barrel, but I just found that my groups are tighter if I have a very nice firm grip on the pistol. I normally shoot just one arrow at a target and go down and grab it and come back because I don't want to bust up arrows. This shoots really nice groups, as you're going to see, at 25 yards, but it's still a couple inches across. It's not going to be drilling the same hole over and over again. So I'm going to risk shooting 4 arrows down at the same dot and see how that goes. Another thing to keep in mind is the aiming point in this dual illuminated RMR is actually larger than the dots on the target. So I have this set up kind of like a figure 8. I have the dot that I'm aiming at, I set it on top of the dot in the sight. That way I can get a precise point of aim. I'm not losing my point of aim behind the dot in the sight. You want to make sure that this is actually fired. That's in a safe position to load. And then you just simply slide the arrow over the barrel. You'll feel maybe a little bit of air pressure inside of the shaft as it slides over the barrel, but you just push past that. And you keep the odd vein up, nice and straight. There's actually not really a firm lock, but you can just feel how it snugs down. And then it's a very easy to cock side lever. And now this trigger's at 14 ounces, so you want to make sure you are lined up before you put any pressure on a trigger. And I got to get down low for this. Oop, that hit a little low. Let's see what the group looks like. Oh, that's okay. Nice. Okay, I know what happened. The sun has come out, and so the dot is blooming more. So the dot is actually larger than when I sighted it. That's one of the problems with something like this. And so the way I have this, my genius way of shooting this is actually pushing my point of aim down. Let's do this last arrow and see where it ends up grouping. That's all that matters anyway, is showing how precise this is downrange at 25 yards. When off a bench. Nice. I'm very impressed with that for what this is. Shooting a 320 grain arrow at about 185 feet per second. That's going to be plenty for taking small game. That's plenty good right there. And it's a lot of fun. These things are super fun to shoot. So now I'm going to use a broadhead. It's a Ramcat 125 grain head. So the total air weight's going to come in at around 345 grains. So it's going to be, I don't know, I don't have my chrono out anymore. It's probably going to be 160 feet per second. I don't think I'm going to get a lot of penetration. So that's why I didn't want to use an expandable, but these fly great. We're going to start easy with a hothouse tomato. This should have no problems going through this. It slices, it dices. That tomato's done for. Ugh, tomato guts. Now watermelon. Oh, it was leaking watermelon blood. Look at that. First time I reloaded, I got that in the barrel. I hate that, but it filled up with watermelon juice. Man, this is blowing watermelon juice all over my face. I think that's it. Blast in the same hole. I think that's good enough. That's the exit. And I can fix those, straighten those blades, but it's so funny that the arrow, the shaft kept filling up with watermelon juice, except for at the end there where it wasn't making a seal. But that's fun. Okay, so what I have here is extra meaty pork ribs. There's 4 solid ribs in there and a ton of meat. I got it in a Ziploc baggie because that's the only way I could get the tape to stick to it. And I've got that taped to a bottle of tomato juice. This is always a fun way to see what happens when I shoot a broadhead out of other arrow slinging devices. Let's see if this little pistol can punch on through. I think it will, actually. Okay, let's try this. Sweet! That's awesome. And that's definitely cut through at least one rib. You can hear it. It's just like when you can hear lungs pop on a deer. You can hear when ribs break, and I definitely heard it. But usually I get glug, glug, glug of the tomato juice, but it is blocked by the veins. So let's pull this out and watch what happens here. Oh, look at that, it's coming out of the front too. He be leaking. Oh, that's awesome. Let's cut into this and see what happened. First thing to notice is this actually worked its way between ribs. It nicked this rib, I can feel it. We'll take a look at that. Actually, this one right here, that's what we heard. But arrows will do that. They'll find their way in between ribs. But still, look at that exit hole. And that's gonna, and there are the lungs right there. Let's cut into this and take a look. There you go. I'm actually pretty happy with that. That shows me that even if I would have hit dead center, it would have broken a rib. And these are heavy pork ribs. If this were something like a coyote, that would have been a dead dog. No question. That's pretty cool. This is powerful enough to take game, I think, from coyote on down. And I wasn't necessarily expecting that until I started shooting it through the chrono. And I was pretty happy with those numbers. I knew it was going to have the kinetic energy, and with the right broadhead, it really gets the job done. The Ranchero arrow is not FX's first arrow gun. In fact, most FX rifles have had optional arrow barrels available for quite some time. It's only more recently, though, that you've been able to get all of these things much more easily here in the US with the opening of FX Airguns USA. Like all FX airguns, the Ranchero arrow does command a premium price that matches its premium construction and great accuracy. MSRP is $1,100, but for that you get the pistol, you get this super nice case, 4 arrows, complete with match grade field tips. You can usually find it for less than that, and I'll try to link to where I think you could get the best price on it in the video description. I'll also pin it in a comment. For many shooters, that's a big price to pay for a little bit more fun on the range or a more interesting way to dispatch critters. But if this is something that interests you and it's in your budget, I think you'll quickly see why FX airguns in general have such a great reputation. If you want to learn more about the FX Ranchero arrow, be sure to click the link in the video description. Be sure to follow me on Facebook and Instagram. You can see the links right here. And be sure to sign up for my mailing list because it's the only surefire way to stay in touch with me no matter what happens to my content here on YouTube. I really appreciate you watching Twang and Bang, and I hope to see you next time.